We are back to the East Coast on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast for our horse racing podcast. We took a trip to California last week. It turned out a bit messy, so we're going back to New York. Luke Elder alongside Tom Collins. As always, we're back to the cold, Tom.
Yes, we are. I'm still reeling from last week. Stay Hot was actually a good each way selection for myself. I do say so myself. But we just missed out on the place, finishing fourth at a double figure price. So back to New York. I prefer New York racing anyway, as I said at the top of last week's show. And this is kind of like the best week of the year when it comes to the winter months before Gulfstream. We've got the Remsen, we've got the Demoiselle, two very nice 2-year-olds in those races respectively. And obviously the Cigar Mile, which is the race we're going to talk about. It's basically a grade one in all but name. There are some really nice horses in here. Hopefully the weather holds up in Aqueduct and we get a good, honest race.
Yeah, we've got Breeders' Cup horses running as well in the Cigar Mile from a whole host of trips. Mullikin, who was sprinting, you've got Post Time, who ran in the mile. They both, well, Post Time performed fairly nicely. Mullikin, he could be absolutely anything over this sort of trip. But this podcast is brought to you by Iron Horse Stallions, with over 90 mares already booked. They stand Bucaro, New York's leading stallion. He's looking to add to his progeny earnings as his flag bearer, and as if by coincidence, he's got Danno in this spot. That's been his real earner so far, and his best horse. But Danno looks to win the Cigar Mile. And also, a little bit later on today, this will already be run by the time we're going, in England, a horse called Cyclonite, who is owned by the Iron Horse guys and by Bucaro as well. He runs over at Kempton. So hopefully you can look back on that and think, wow, Cyclonite won. Bucaro is pretty good. Let's take a look at him. That's like that guy. I'm a big fan of Bucaro, Tom. I've said it before. I'm a big fan.
You don't say. Yes, I know you are. I know you are. You do tend to look at these Bucaros with a lot more intrigue. If they weren't by Bucaro, you may not have that kind of glance at them. But yes, his main offspring runs in this race in Danno, and he's one of the horses that we should be talking about at the top of this show.
Yeah. Can you say I love Bucaro just for Harlan Malta, just because he'll be really happy?
I love Bucaro.
Harlan's going to clip that, and he will put it everywhere. It will put it everywhere. He gets, like, when I say something nice about Bucaro, he's happy. When you say something nice,
yeah, it's because I feel like I'm harder to please than you.
Yeah, you're a miserable little. Right, let's move on. We have got the Cigar Mile to look through. There is a morning line that's out. It's not been that well advertised at the moment, but on the morning line, Mullikin is 3-1 favourite. Post Time is 7-2. Danno is 4-1. Bigger prices. The remainder, wide open stuff in the Cigar Mile. Like you said at the top of the show, it genuinely feels like a Grade One.
It does, and we should get a Grade 1 pace in the race as well for a mile contest. I expect them to go maybe 45-4, something like that through the opening half, which would be solid for a race of this nature, and it would be a very fair contest and probably set up for the stalker or the closer, but the horses on the speed will also have a chance. There are a couple that definitely want to push forward in this race, the likes of Nelson Avenue, who's going to be a big price, I think. I can't remember his morning line price. Repo Rocks, who has been hit and miss for a long time in his career. A lot of hit when he was with Jamie Ness. Pipeline, those three will definitely push forward. But the likes of Mullikin, who is the morning line favourite, as you say, he's exiting sprints and moving up in distance. So he's sure to be using that early pace to get into an early position. So they're going to go fast enough in the first part of the contest, which will make it fair and hopefully set it up for the horse that I like.
Possibly. Or something else. But I wanted to start with Mullikin because he's a fascinating contender in this race. Look, the Breeders' Cup sprint, it didn't go right for him. There was a lot of speed on, and he ended up jumping out almost last, and he had to make up ground. He actually ran really well to finish third with Flavien Prat on board. Flavien once again takes the ride. It was off a little bit of an absence. I must say, I've never looked at him fully and thought, I think you're a miler. So that is a big, big question mark for me with Mullikin.
And me, especially in a race like this. I feel like if he could dominate in a small field off the front, it's highly likely he'll stay the mile, and it's highly likely he'll hit the line strongly. But in this contest, he's not likely to get to the lead, I don't think. And even if he does get to the lead, he's going to be pace pressured. Therefore, his stamina is really going to come into play in the final furlong and a half. I don't really think he'll stay, to be honest with you. And I'm surprised he's morning line favourite. I thought he'd be maybe third or fourth in here, around 9-2, 5-1. So the fact that David Aragona, the morning line maker in New York, has gone 3-1, I think it is, about Mullikin. That is short enough for me, and I'll be looking elsewhere. That being said, he did run very well at the Breeders' Cup. Rudolph Brissett and Flavian Pratt have a 33% strike rate together this year, and he's drawn nicely. So there are pros there. I just think the cons and the big question mark about stamina weighs against him in this spot.
Yeah, even if he does see it out, I think others will stay better over at Aqueduct. And the Aqueduct is a long way home. We see horses staying on down the outside the entire time. So there will be some running at him. Senor Buscador might be one of them who he's a very talented horse, is Senor Buscador. He was back to form in a rather big way last time round when finishing fifth in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Honestly, before that, his form after the Dubai World Cup had been pretty moderate, honestly.
It has. You have to go back to the Saudi Cup in February for his big career highlight, and he won that in good fashion, beating Ushba Tesoro. But it was a race where the pace completely collapsed, and those that were held up right out of the back, deep closers came through. So maybe he was a little bit favoured by the scenario there. Dubai World Cup, he ran okay, and then he came back to the US. His first two runs were way below par. But I suppose last time in the Breeders' Cup Classic, he took that big step back to something like his best, finishing fifth. We know what Senor Buscador is all about. He's going to come running late. He's got very little early speed. So the pace setup could suit him here.
Hmm.
This is quite clearly used as a prep for the Pegasus World Cup, or at least I believe it is. Therefore, I don't foresee him being 100% ready to go because they're going to be working up towards the Pegasus in just over a month's time. That might just catch him out. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran third, fourth, maybe even second in this race. But if he won, that'd be a little bit of a shock for me.
I'm a little surprised they've come here, honestly, because the Pegasus is obviously the main target. Maybe they didn't think the race would turn out this strong, but you got the Harlan's Holiday, isn't it, at Gulfstream in
Yeah.
the coming weeks. I know White Abarrio's pointed there, but I'd rather take just him on than this lot. I mean, this is a very, very good race. If you're using this as a prep, this could be the contest where you leave your race behind going towards the Pegasus. We've got Locked in here who, I mean, it's been so disappointing how much we've seen Locked or how little we've seen Locked so far this year. Came here to Aqueduct, was sent off a very short price on his reappearance in a race that he'd win almost 10 times out of 10. But let's not forget how good he was last year. He ran a huge race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile against the bias. That was behind Fierceness. That form looks pretty strong now. And I still think he was probably the best juvenile that was on track last year.
Yeah, he was definitely up there. He ran first in the Claiborne Futurity at Keeneland, where he hung a little bit left, but still managed to get the job done around 2 turns. And then in the Juvenile, as you say, he was against the bias, finished well for minor money, just wasn't able to contest the finish behind a good horse. The layoff, 351 days. Obviously, things went amiss, but he fired first time up in a much weaker race. The question now is, one, can he do it again? Second off the layoff, horses can bounce. Two, can he do it against his elders? And three, can he do it in open company in a big field like this, full of good horses?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want my money on him because there are, again, big questions. Bigger questions than I think we've got to ask about Mullikin. He's a short enough price, but he is the most intriguing run of the race. If he wins this, he's a proper Grade 1 horse.
Without doubt. I mean, regards to the bounce factor with Locked, he was off until the 19th of October. He's had a break. So he's had a little bit of a break through till the start of December for this contest. So I don't hate it in that regard. I think the race spacing is very good regards to the Pletcher runner, but this is a big race to be making your debut against older horses in going into Grade 2 company. We have to talk about Bookham Danno, who has just been absolutely superb so far this season. Obviously, last time around he got beat. He was a selection for me on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Irad Ortiz Jr. gave him a dreadful ride. I thought every possible thing that he could have done wrong, he did, and the only way he could get Bookham Danno beaten in that race, he did.
Yeah, potentially. I will say that even with the traffic problems, he probably should have won. He was 3-5 favourite. He was the best horse by quite some way going into the race in the Perryville. Yes, he wasn't given a great ride, but I still think a horse like Bucandano should pull through when that happens. And it was nothing necessarily against him himself. Obviously, Irad lost the race for him, but I was still a little bit disappointed he didn't win. That being said, his form is very strong. He ran a great second in the Saudi Derby back in February behind Forever Young, who is a great horse, as we all know. He's a real standout for New Jersey breds, for Bucaro as a stallion, and he should be in a good spot here to run well. He's drawn nice on the inside against our Irad again, who is surely going to learn from the mistakes. And look, you can't write him off. I thought he would be favourite in this spot before I saw the morning line. He should get a perfect rail skimming trip, maybe just in behind the speed in fifth or sixth. And from there, he'd have every chance.
Yeah, he's only tried in the US anyway the mile once. That was back in 2023. Obviously, he went over to Saudi last year, and he was just caught in the closing stages by Forever Young. I think he's probably a better horse this trip rather than 6 furlongs or 7 furlongs. So I think Buckham Danno's got a strong chance in this. Look, we've been through the majority of the field, and we're still not through all the horses of interest. So I'll just open things up. Anything else that you wanted to discuss before we go into selections?
Not really, to be fair. I mean, the rags, you can make a case for a couple of them, but they're not at the top of my shortlist. You know, Book and Dano would be the last off my shortlist before we come to my pick, which I haven't mentioned yet. Looking at a couple of the others, I mean, if Repo Rocks gets back to anything like his best, then he's a player, but who knows with him and his trainer. Law Professor, probably not good enough anymore, but has some good speed figures in the past. Pipeline could be dangerous off the front, but again, probably is just a cut below what we're talking about with some of these horses in here. And that just leaves my main selection, who plenty of you have probably guessed if you've looked at the prices right now. But we'll come to that in a second. I think this race will be dominated by the top of the market. There is a clear disparity for me between the top 4 or 5 horses and the remainder of the field.
Yeah, absolutely so. We'll get into selections. Selections brought to you this week by our good friends over at SBK, who sponsor both our horse racing podcast and also our NFL podcast as well. Go check them out. They've got some fantastic offers on pretty much everything that you could possibly ask for, including NFL. So selections brought to you by SBK, and hopefully our selections are about to make SBK a little bit poorer on that part. I'll let you go first, Tom, because you've been desperately wanting to give your selection out, I think, is the way I'll put it.
I have. Before I do, click that link below for SBK, by the way. £40 in free bets when you sign up and play your first £10. So don't miss it out on this. You can get that £40 free bets if you play one of our selections in this race. So it's the perfect time to do so. Link below in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Yes, my selection is going to be post time. Now, I fully respect the likes of Buckham Danno, Mullikin, Locked, all of those horses. And it's hard to go against them because, albeit there are questions about, well, all of them, I suppose, including Buckham Danno, maybe even the trip, they're all solid. The thing with post time is he's not been as solid in the past. But this year, he has really just leapfrogged himself up to this proper Grade 1 horse. His connections are great in Maryland, but they're not as good in New York. Brittany Russell's strike rate in New York isn't phenomenal, but she's a very good trainer. Sheldon is a solid rider as well. He's no Arid or Tees, but he's a solid rider. Now, I don't have the morning line price on post time at 7-2. I think he'll probably drift up. Maybe 9-2 we'll get about this horse. Not when the market opens in the UK, if you're looking for that and you've just watched the podcast, but maybe towards the off of the race, because the money's going to come for the likes of Buckham Danno. And therefore, I think post time may go up a point or two. Now, he's got the perfect running style for this contest. There's a lot of early speed, as already talked about. He's going to be way out the back. He comes late. He comes with one big run. He won't be seen in the early part of the race. It's very much like Senor Buscador, albeit he's probably going to be a spot in front of Senor Buscador. He ran great in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I didn't give him a chance in that race. I don't think many people did. He was way out the back and he ran home strongly. It may not have been the best Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile you've ever seen, but he ran nice. It wasn't a one-off either. It's not like post time is coming into this race with one big performance in the Breeders' Cup and his previous form fell below that kind of standard. If that was the case, then I'd be treating the Breeders' Cup form with a lot of caution. Horses can overperform in that race because they are teed up 100% and they drop off. However, if you go back to the summer, he ran very well in the Whitney back in August. He wasn't beaten far, and he came running fast with that same running style. So not only have we seen it once, but we've seen it twice in top-level races. If he does it here, I think he's going to be in the top 3, guaranteed. And therefore, if you can get 9-2, 5-1, then he's an each way win, play, show bet if you're in the US. If he comes with that late run and the pace collapses, he's a big win contender in this spot. Don't worry about the draw. He's going to be last, so he'll come across, or close to last. He'll come across and he won't be caught wide. So post time is going to be my play in here. And hopefully we can finally get a winner on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't like post time in this.
Go on.
I thought he was a bit flattered last time. In the Breeders' Cup Mile. I thought they went very hard early on. I thought he picked up the pieces a touch in the latter part of the race. Obviously, Full Serrano was close to the pace, but nothing else that raced up with the pace hung about. They went so hard. Let's compare his fractions from Del Mar to Laurel Park in the Polynesian, the start prior. At Del Mar, in the opening couple of furlongs, they went 22-1. which is stupid fast. A Laurel Park in the Polynesian, which is, yes, it's a worse race. They went 23-4. The opening half at Del Mar, they went 45-2. At Laurel Park, they went 47 flat. They're going to go hard in this spot. I don't think they're going to go that hard because Del Mar was just absolutely stupid. Tio Sandini, the Japanese horse, was setting crazy fractions, and it really set the race up for closers. But I think Post Time might be one that stays on. I just don't really see Post Time winning.
He may fall just short. You might be right, but I do think they're going to go quite hard. I think they'll go 45-8, sorry, which isn't too much slower than that Del Mar race. So if they do go those fractions, then he's going to play a big part. But that's kind of my angle of thinking. That's the pace I'm sticking by, and therefore I want the closer. If they do go slower, then maybe a horse in the stalking role, maybe like a Bookham Danno, will come out on top.
Yeah, I get it. I do get the tactical angle. I like Bookham Danno in here. I'm going to keep faith with him, and I'm going to side with him again after the horror of last time around and the ride from Iralities Junior. I hope he's sorted things out. Look, the latest effort over at Keeneland, as I say, it was a horrible passage. I don't think he got the greatest of rides. I thought he ran very well in the Alan Jerkins a start prior behind Domestic Product and Prince of Monaco. Again, I don't think things really went right for him that day. He's a horse that likes to come a little way off the pace, yes. I don't think that far behind. He sat with only 2 behind him in the early part of the contest. He still ran on very nicely. Obviously, he managed to win the Jersey Shore prior to that, and he won the Woody Stevens as well when beating Prince of Monaco, who had his excuses on the day, but Bookham Danno still took a fair bit of heat early on. He wasn't that far off a very strong pace that day. In the opening half for that, they went 44-2. So we know that he can chase strong paces. That was over 6. I think over a mile, he's going to be a better horse as well. He just seems to be a horse who keeps on going. We saw that over in Saudi when obviously Forever Young just about managed to get him, but they were a little way clear of the rest. I think Bookham Danno is about to take his form to new levels. The harder they go early on, the better for Bookham Danno. I think he could be quite a nice bet at the weekend, and importantly as well, a big winner for one of our sponsors.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be great for the podcast and the team at Iron Horse. I am not as sure as you are about the mile for him. If you go back to the Nashua last November, he didn't really get it. I mean, he got past in the latter stages by a horse called Where's Chris, who's just not a top level horse. So maybe Bookham Danno just wasn't the horse he is now, which is highly plausible. But also, I don't know, he didn't stay great. In the Saudi Derby, he stayed a lot better. But that track is very interesting when it comes to speed. It's downhill in the home straight, so I feel like it definitely favours those who are forwardly placed. But anyway, maybe he will stay. It's a question mark for me. I think he'll play a big role in this race no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. Even if he doesn't win, I think he'll be on the premises at least. They're the 2 selections brought to you by SBK. Tom with Post Time, myself with Bookham Danno. They could not be further apart on the track. They are completely different sides of things. But Bookham Danno for myself, Post Time for Tom. Where are we looking next week? Do you know?
I cannot remember, but I promise I will look before, and I'll do the running order, which you don't read anyway. So yeah, we'll find out.
There might be, if you look back in this podcast, if you look back, the running order, I don't know, I think it was Bookham Danno to talk about first.
It was, yeah.
And Mullikin wasn't even on the list. And I went, let's talk about Mullikin.
You went, let's go Mullikin first. Okay, fine, whatever.
If you watch Tom's face, you might see him go, this guy is not good at following running orders. But we spoke about Mullikin first. Whatever. Bookham Danno for myself. Post Time for Tom. Next week we'll be talking about something. I don't know what, but we'll be talking about something in regards to horse racing. We've also got an NFL podcast live on the channel right now for Thursday Night Football. We'll have the Sunday preview as well coming. And also we are super close to 400 subscribers on 397 as we speak. Please help us out with that. If you're not subscribed, click subscribe down below. Click the bell. It turns your notifications on so you get to see our videos as soon as they come out. Leave a comment and a like down below as well. And I think I've done all my gardening on that.
You have. Can I just say, and I know this is a very YouTuber thing to say, we're not really YouTubers to be honest, but 75% of people who actually watch our videos aren't subscribed. So we know you're out there, people. Just click that button, please. It does really help us. We are on the road to 500, as Luke says. So hopefully we can hit that by, well, it's a bit ambitious by saying the end of the year, but let's go for it. Why not?
Now, here's a guy who's been watching a few YouTubers recently. Literally, I saw Cam Kirkham's videos and Memelis's videos, and they always bring out a stat. It's like 70% of you guys aren't subscribed. Please subscribe. It's like, oh, we're doing that now.
Yeah, we're doing it. Why not? Come on.
Yeah, and also, if you're listening on Spotify, if you're one of those rare ones that listen on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. That would be great. We like that. Thank you very much for listening to our horse racing preview on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We look forward to seeing you again and talking to you again. Until that time, stay safe, look after another. Goodbye.